Morning, guys. Yeah, it's a privilege to be sitting here. It's actually 1 year, 1 month. This has been getting a bit prolonged. A few things I have to say is, only as Ed thinks is, but for the grace of God am I here, as well as this program, as you're reading the promises. I never thought I like to talk a lot, as everyone knows, as Tanya knows, as Don knows, cats on a hot tin roof. But this for me is something that is completely thrown a curveball. So where do I start? How do I start? I don't know. I had to drive to this beach this morning, go sit there, speak to my higher power, in a mess. So hopefully me sharing my experience with you can make a bit of sense, because I've got no sense of it, because I can't believe that I'm here. So let me give it a go. I'll try to the best of my ability to share something about me. I'm 45 years of age now, and I've had a good life, a mad life, filled with lots of trials and tribulations. It started off with, let me get back to the beginning. It started off at a young age where basically I grew up in a family with two parents, as you would have to have two parents to make something like this, you know. For me, it started off with seeing alcoholism and being surrounded by it. My mother ran away with me at the age of 4, my father and her getting super on, and, running away with me. And first visions I had was, in foreign place, foreign flats, not knowing who my father is, and, just wanting my father. To my father finding us, by the age of 5, we moved from Pretoria down to Durban, staying on the South Beach. My mother came back, she had run away with my father's friend. My dad took her back, same antics started up again, both drinking, getting on, until eventually she ran away with another one of my friend's fathers. And he, at that stage, was staying in a building called Housespray on the South Beach, and I was 5 years of age, and I will never forget it. He tried to lock himself into his bedroom with a case of brandy and tried to drink himself to death. I had a couple of cents or whatever, and I went to the shop and I got myself locked out of the flat. And I ended up spending 2 days cruising around the neighborhood until social welfare picked me up and kicked the door in and found my dad near on his deathbed. I was put into a foster home, and my dad was booked into Lulama, another treatment facility. My dad is a twin. He's got a twin brother by the name of Norman, or late Norman, and he came to visit me in the foster home. And from there, I did a little small thing. I took a little ball. I didn't want him to leave, and I threw it into the bush so he could stay longer. And through this program, what I've learned in this last year, which is completely amazing, was the start of my fears, my anxieties, my fears of abandonment, my worry, worry of what the next day is going to hold, what the next day is going to bring. I had the opportunity only to spend 4 days in the foster home, and then my dad's twin brother Norman took me under his wing, and I moved to Athlone Park. And he was my idol. I mean, he used to build boats, he was affluent, and he was a traveller. And he had these boxes with at those stages, they had little slides. And he had been all around the world, and I was mesmerized with it. Anyway, I ended up living with him for 2 years. My dad did the whole recovery thing, I had to go to court with him, and I was like, I want to stay with my dad. I didn't want anything to do with my mother, because at that young age, what I had already seen, I felt more secure with my father because he was putting in an effort. And I lived with my father. He was on the straight and narrow. For 7 years, things started to blossom, and he didn't drink, and everything was good. And those feelings of security came back, and he's always provided for me. He's tried his best. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. But he's also dealing with some dilemmas. Anyway, so it progressed until I was about 13, and he had met a woman, and they were going to get married, and what happened is, on the engagement night, basically, he had a glass of champagne, and they got into an argument. She decided to go stay with the mother. 5 days later, she phones him. She says she's married another man. Once again, pushed him off the edge through the whole cycle. And before I go on, which I completely forgot to say, only through the grace of God am I here, through my sponsor and through my lovely wife, Tanya, who I've been with her for 8 years now. Only through my sponsors have asked to get married, and I'm very fortunate for this. I'm lucky she's still here, But yeah, sorry, I'm a bit all over the place. But getting back to my conversation, there once again he started drinking again, and I was 13. I was starting to surf competition. I was BMXing, sponsorship. I've always been very good at sports. It's very energetic. And I could just see the destruction. And once again, he lost everything and jumping. I'll never forget jumping into cars, sleeping in the Durban hotel, having to drive up to Joburg, car breaking down on the side of the road, having to pick up hitchhikers to drive because my dad's too drunk, getting to my mother, having to stay with my mother, going to Germiston High for 2 months, which I hated because I sold in a soap peel, you know what I mean? No one likes from Durban, and I thought I'd take a technical class, but I was like 13, in standard 7. These guys were like 19 in standard 7, I'm only like 4'3". These guys are like got beards, and you know what I mean. So my quickest alternative was I need to get out of here. So I started thinking, I'll tell them I'm using Tipp-Ex on my tire because I heard that is a good thing to do, Anyway, cut a long story short, after 2 months I was out of it. I moved back down to my uncle's, and my dad got himself back onto the straight and narrow. When we got back down to Durban and we got a flat together, I always lived with my dad. I would never leave his side, irrespective of all the trials and tribulations. I never knew what I was coming home to from day to day, And that created me to start building up my masks towards the reality of situations. We couldn't afford to pay for school fees, I was known as a part-time student, I had my dad's gold NMP card, I had a doctor at the age of 65, I used to con him if I never used to go to school on a Monday. I'd only go to school on a Friday to serve a competition. I get myself booked off saying that I got TB. Meanwhile, I've been smoking too many bottlenecks. And things like that, started smoking weed at a very young age. And I vowed to myself that I would never become an alcoholic, because I could see the destruction and devastation that it had created. And on 1 or 2 occasions, I was such a small guy, no chance I could get into the bottle store. But 1 or 2 occasions that I did drink, I drank and I got super sick. I drank a whole bottle of cocoa with a bit of Oros, and I ended up, going home and pissing in the cupboard in my dad's shoes. So, I thought, no, this is not too lacquer. Make me feel sick, this thing, So I initially stuck to my drug of choice then, which is the green machine, and smoked all day. I'd get to school and my maths teacher would say, Chad, he's got his cigarettes in his pocket. Meanwhile, my shirt, I use it as a selfie, get to school on the 4th lesson. But what I always did is I always applied myself, irrespective of how much I was absent from school, and that I never failed a thing, because I knew that if you're going to do the crime, do the time. So I went through, as much as I had a traumatic upbringing, it wasn't really that traumatic because I was always provided for. I always had my dad's credit cards, I always had money, I had the doctor's NMP card, I always had a story. And from then, I always knew that there was always a way to make a plan. and I always use that to my benefit. I progressed to eventually, at the age of about 16, because I matriculated when I was 17, 16, my dad wrote off 3 cars in 1 week. Drunk and disorderly, getting found, beaten black and blue, trying to catch trains. We had to move to Queensborough from Toti, and that just broke me. I mean, I was surfing competitively, I had to move away from the beach, and all it did was just get me to smoke more, go to school less, and always find alternative ways to make a plan. Just to be not dodgy in a way, but just not go to school and just surf as much as possible and smoke as much as possible. And I never had the inclination to drink. But then after that, I matriculated when I was 17, and I convinced my dad we had to move down to North Beach. It would be more beneficial for me because I was going to study to be a chef at Emma Salton Commercial Catering Hotel School. So we moved to the North Beach, but that was just another excuse to go surf, because I feel that it was my happy place. I didn't have to deal with life on life's terms, with all these insecurities that I constantly surrounded myself with, the masks that I had to build up, the happy-go-lucky guy. I mean, I couldn't take a friend, I couldn't have a girlfriend, I couldn't take friends home, because on occasions I took people to sleep at my house. I get home and it would be a mess. Not in the sense that Wes and May, but it would be a mess, And so when I got to Durban and now all of a sudden I had freedom, I'd finished school, I was studying, and my dad is like, hey, Lati, you need to get a job now. So while I was studying, I'd only been studying for about 6 months, there was a place called the Berea Centre. They were opening up a restaurant called the Hard Rock Cafe there. And basically, I went and over 250 people applied for a job, and they only chose 35 people. I think it was like 10 or 16 waiters and 20 waitresses. And I was very fortunate enough to get a job there. And before I knew it, I was earning more money in 1 week than my dad was earning in a month, getting tips. And through that, I met another person who was at that stage. I mean, my drug of choice, which is the psychedelic side of life. And I tried it once or twice and I loved it. I started going at 3:30 and started hitting the jewels. And that guy moved overseas and he gave me his contact. So I eventually was now going up to Joburg, scoring, coming back, selling, making big bucks. And I thought I had it all waxed. But I always had this fear and anxiety in myself, always trying to people please and always trying to find an escapism to get away, get out of myself, because I never was comfortable in myself. I could make the money, I could, have affirmations from friends, through my surfing, through sponsorships, but there was always this feeling of wanting to escape. After studying and then getting into my second year, I decided that the studying is not too clever for me because I know more than I know. And I got a job on a luxury liner, the Kelly Lara, which gave me the opportunity to sell around, get paid in dollars now, which was even more, it was even better. And that gave me the opportunity after I finished that to get and go overseas for the first time. Which now, as things had progressed, I was now hitting the jaw. I was still doing this and then that, and then I started drinking. But the drinking went hand in hand with my psychedelics, because you can drink like a fish and not feel anything. And then when I went overseas, I went and stayed with the same person who had set me up overseas, and now getting over to London, 1993, bright lights, big city, start of the dance generation, from that to ecstasy. Sorry, I'm not meant to mention things, but it's a progression how everything just progressed in my life. And I met up with this guy, and at that stage I had long hair, surfer dude, you know what I mean? And he just took me under his wing, and I was like his guinea pig, you know, take that, go to Glastonbury, does it work? Look at him. He's like, yeah, that definitely works. You know, I'll have 5 of those, thank you. So it progressed from that, and I could only spend 6 months. I was actually going there to serve competitions, but I'd gone to Newquay, and that Joel and the dance floor was calling me, going to these festivals and these parties, and the colours were flying left, right, and centre. And I was loving it. But I kept on running, and I went to try to surf contests and that, and they wouldn't let me surf because there was a transition between the northern and southern hemispheres for 2 years. It didn't allow people from the standard of surfing was higher than theirs, basically. So I had to come back to South Africa because of the transition between 93 pre-apartheid to post-apartheid, and I had to come and sort out my visa and that. My mother is from England, so I had the opportunity to get an ancestral visa. So I came back, and when I got back, I sorted a few things out. Went back to work at the Hard Rock Cafe, met up some guys from England. Now, by that stage, I was bringing party chicks back from London, and things were now starting to throw little parties, and chickatallas, watch your penguins running around, basically. Anyway, I went back about 6-7 months later, in 1994, and I went back with the whole quiver of boards, and I had a new challenge and a new chapter in my life where I basically decided that I was just going to go and travel and hunt down the best waves in the world and just go and explore the unexplored. You know, saw 1-2 pictures in surf magazines of these places where just palm trees, surf spots, you know, in jungles, and that really appealed to me. So I went back, and that's what I did. I went back with a friend, and I got back here, and as I do, being an organizer, I slipped straight into a good job working for another company by the name called Rotisserie. It was a South African Jewish guy who was also from South Africa, and his dad had bought him a restaurant, but he had no clue on people. He had no people skills. And me, I slipped in perfectly there. And, you know, I worked for the guy for about 8 years. We ended up opening up 3 restaurants for the guy. But having the opportunity to work for 6 to 8 months of the year, travel for 6 to 8 months of the year, work 11 months, travel 8 months. I ended up doing 4 round-the-world tickets, a lot of little short holidays, North Africa, Europe, and whatever. I've had the fortune to have been around the world a few times into a lot of different countries. I spent about 4.5 years in Southeast Asia, which is my favorite country, or countries, should I say. I absolutely love the East. Central America gets a bit messy for me with all the tequila and marching powder, you know what I mean, in abundance, and, you know, that gets me into trouble. But yeah, I loved it too. That's why I've been back here a couple of times. But as things progressed in my journey, and things were going well, I still had these feelings of fear, anxiety, worry, self-worthlessness, always trying to people please, always trying to be the center of attention. And for me to do that, used to throw parties, used to sell copious amounts of drugs, used to throw small parties, 250 people, have it banging, you know, and I thought it was cool. It was good. It was cool. It was cool for the time being. You know, I made a lot of money, had a lot of benders, but the party scene just kept on progressing, and the fluffy side started going into more of the edgier side, and the parties ended up getting longer and longer, and started getting deeper and deeper into the whole scene. The scene took me to smuggling drugs from Holland, you know, being involved with chemists, taking drugs all around, and it just got messy too. Eventually, I couldn't sell my products anymore because I would do too many of it. So I thought the next best thing was to become a horticulturist, grow hydroponics, indoors. And that just led me through losing out of 3.5 years of my life because I was just watching plants grow. But while I was watching plants grow, I had all my party tricks, whatever I required around me at all times. And I was just involved in the party scene to a degree which became quite deep. Squat parties, basically finding venues, squatting venues, setting up music systems. And, more than 200 people, there's a section 16 there. If you can squat a place without any visible access of breaking in, you're allowed to stay there, as well as if there's more than 200 people, you can basically, the police they can only give you so much time, so you can run amok. And we took advantage of the police there because they're very decent overseas, they're very understanding, and you can get away with murder. But I always had this feeling, and then eventually my friend, he said to me, he's now a personal, he does, what do you call it, he's like a landmark forums, I don't know, Anthony Robbins, like personal development courses, and then he paid me to do a course called the Landmark Forum. And I thought this is going to be the answer to my problems. And you went and you sat in a room for 4 days, and they said your life is broken down into, some certain thing happens to you between the age of 3 and 7, 7, 13, 13, 21, 21, 26, that determines who you are as an individual. So I thought now I had the answers. But I never had the answers. I was always seeking for the answers. I was always seeking for something that was always right by my side, and that was God. I've traveled around the world, as I told you. I've been to many different countries. I've looked into many different religions. Wherever I'd go, I would be looking or searching for something. From North Africa, from North Africa to Jainism, to Hinduism, to Buddhism. And, I could never find what I was looking for. I tried to do these personal development courses. They gave me certain answers, but it didn't deal with my main problem. After burning down a block of flats, getting caught for growing, I faced the music, and nearly even on deathbed, I was in hospital for 5 days getting my lungs steamed. From carbon monoxide poisoning. I lost my whole last crop, lost all my money, everything I'd worked for 3.5 years. God was just trying to tell me something and point me in the right direction, I feel. Anyway, as I can see, the time is ticking. To cut a long story short, after that I came back to South Africa, came back with a partner, and my same Intex, I just moved continents. I came back here, I set up a successful business, I had 39 guys working for me. I was flying, but the nostrils were still hungry. The thirst was even harder than ever. And that all went pear-shaped. I had everything that I wanted, but I was still lost inside. These anxieties, these feelings that I never had an answer to, and I would always just try and suppress it. Until eventually it got so bad that I tried to run away, and I did my yacht masters. She cheated on me. I had to cancel our wedding. I blamed everyone, the whole world. Went to another 1.5 year bender. When I say 1.5 years, I mean every single, 30 years is every single day, but that was hectic too. But yeah, and I did my yacht masters, got headhunted, and I was running a yacht out in Mozambique. And once again, staying on a yacht, living the life of Riley, but thirsty horse wouldn't leave me. Now I couldn't get any drugs, so the alcohol took over, and it took over in a big way. And until eventually I came back and I thought, okay, I'm going to sober up. I'm going to the Caribbean. I'm going to go work on a super yacht in the Caribbean. And that's where I think it's where God first, where it was a God sign. I mean, I look back at it now and I hated it in the beginning, but I was involved in a horrific car accident. I came back 2 weeks before I was going. I was going for surf at 6 o'clock in the morning and I was T-boned at 140 kilometers to Indian guys drag racing. I broke my back in 4 places. I broke my pelvis in 5 places, lost half the skin off down the side of my body. My car rolled several times. I was thrown out the window and I was pinned underneath it. I'd cancelled all my policies. I thought I was going to be going to earn $12,000 to $15,000 a month. I was going to buy a yacht, go sail a V. And it's just how God, I would have killed myself there, you know, especially in the Caribbean. And also one of my drugs of choice, quite a few. I would have got very messy there. So now cancelling all my policies and everything, basically ended up spending a month and a half in Addington Hospital. I had a 50% chance of learning how to walk again. And they wanted to put pins and everything. I said, no, otherwise I can't surf, I can't do anything, you know. So I took the hard route out and I lay on my back for 4.5 months and basically tried to heal like that. Just after that, I was fortunate enough to meet up with Tanya, who gave me another lease of life, you know, for not never wanting to see or know a woman again. Did she take me under her wing and put some belief back into my heart, you know, that, you know, if you try and you believe in love. I didn't want to know about a woman. I had a woman break my heart my whole life, from my mother to relationships to everything, and everybody else was to blame, and I couldn't see the destruction that I was actually causing myself through my behaviour. And, you know, that's when we started on our journey. I got baptized, I got into my life, and it started going well. But after me starting to walk again and getting back onto my feet and landing a couple of contracts that I take self-fullback, and went through another 2.5 years, pulled her down with me, nostril started working overtime again. And, you know, it took until eventually me selling my house and going, listen, I have to get out of here, and moving to Scarborough. Once we got here in the property I'm staying now, did my life. Still didn't get better because I'd now tried to eradicate the drugs, but I'd now replaced it with the alcohol, and the alcohol was starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, all day, every day. And I really take my hat off to Tanya for still being around, because I don't know how she actually puts up with me, or did, or still does, you know. But then things changed, I got to a point where I had to really look at the situation. I was fortunate enough to be paid up by the Road Accident Fund. I still tried to people please, gave away a lot of money, got disappointments, didn't get the affirmations I wanted, and still was living in the problem, not looking at the solution. And tried for 3 years to go to the meetings, went to rehab for 28 days. That just helped me sober up. A quick point that I didn't touch on is that after my accident, I then was on medication. Then I got told that I had loads of issues. I had bipolar, borderline, schizophrenic, manic depressants. I had it all, and I was like, you know it. You got it right on the head there. You know, I'm at Addington Hospital. I'm speaking to a psychiatrist who's in training. I'm seeing the Naji outside, chopping a gagger, getting an issue. You on anything? I'm pulling faces, and I'm like, me never. You know, just load me up with that medication. I'm only paying $20. Make it double. You know. You know, it's all for free. $20 get me a long way there. But when I went to rehab, I actually went because of the medication, as well as everything else. But the medication was the unraveling of my problem, because I feel that was what pushed me over the edge. We can all look at popping a tablet to help us. For me personally, I abused it. I personally think we have to look back deep inside ourselves and look at our behavior And only when I started working a program, surrendering, and after I first met Don, and about a year later, I was like, "Hey Don, remember you still said you'd sponsor me?" You're like, "Hey, really? I think I'm ready now." He's like, "Yeah, come." And over this year, I realized that, the drugs was an escapism for me. Addict of an alcoholic of my nature, I use it to mask all my insecurities and the feelings that I have, the self-worthlessness, the things that have happened in the past. But the past have made me who I am today. And I can only be thankful for that because of where it's got me. It's got me into these rooms. It has got me and my connection with God stronger than ever. I found something that I've been looking for my whole life, and He's been right by my side. And got a beautiful wife, a fantastic friend, a sponsor who has shown me what life really is. Because I always thought life was about the colors through psychosis and drugs and everything. Life is life on life's terms, And I have to really look at my behavior on a constant basis, because the way I have behaved and the way I still behave, I have to pull myself into line because of my insecurities. But I'm just a human being who has tried my best my whole life. I've sometimes done it for the wrong reasons and expected different results or different outcomes. But through having the opportunity to work a 12-step program to the best of my ability and take it every day at a time, just for today. I try my best. I still use this morning, "Hey, your steps are slipping there, your step 11. I'm like, "Yeah, I see you that one last night," But it brings now guilt and shame to me because I know the right thing to do. I've got all the tools to do them. It's up to me whether I apply them. I can't blame anybody else. I've played the blame game. I've blamed partners. I've blamed circumstances. I've blamed people I've done business with. But at the end of the day, I have to bring it all back to myself. And if I try my best on a daily basis, just for today, I'm doing a lot better than I have ever done in the 44 years prior to where I am today. And that is only through the grace of God, through having supportive people around me, changing my outlook on life, looking at the solution and not living in the problem. And also for doing this through the rooms, having all of you around, some new, some old, some, who've given me the support that I've needed, and I can only be very grateful to that, and through God, and as I said, my partners and my family, because without being able to get to the true crutch of the problem, which is me, I would never be here, because I would still be blaming everyone else. So yeah, on that note, I have gone a bit over. I'd have to say thanks for letting me share my experience with you guys. And yeah, hopefully I'll be back there next year.